All right, so this is my 6 pounds wedged 50 times. I did the cylinder wedging technique. And you guys, when you're done wedging, you want to take the clay and roll it towards you so that you're not getting air back inside the form, and kind of rock it gently towards you. You can do it on the table. You don't have to do it right here on the wheel. I'm just doing it because I'm getting ready to throw. And roll it out, I would say, into a long cylinder. And make sure the ends stay nice and round. Now, if I were to mark this in thirds, roughly, I know that I've got 2 pounds, 2 pounds, and 2 pounds. And I want you to start out throwing with 2 pounds in order to learn centering and to learn opening technique. 2 pounds is more than enough. So I'm going to stand this guy up, and if you remember how to do this, your thumb goes behind, okay, and you line it up here and you pull the wire towards your thumb, all right, and that gives you a flat base to start from. You know, I'm going to leave this bottom one together because the clay won't dry out as fast if I don't cut it up. And I'm going to wrap that in a piece of plastic. I see a lot of people leaving their clay out. Unless you want it to dry a little bit and you want to work with drier clay on the wheel, you don't like soft clay, I would keep them wrapped so that you know, next time you need clay, it's not going to be a dried up hunk, because we go through enough clay in the studio as it is. Okay, and the flat bottom on there, I just kind of round off the bottom a little bit. You don't have to form it into a perfect ball, but that's about where I want to be. When you're ready to attach the clay to the wheel head, I usually take 2 hands and I give it a good thunk as close to the middle as I can. And you can tell how centered it is by just giving the wheel a little bit of a spin. It's not perfect, but it's definitely close enough to the center. I feel comfortable enough starting with this piece of clay where it's at. If you give it a thunk and it's not in the center, or it's a little bit more off than what you just saw, move it. Let's put it back. Okay? Give it a couple of good hits. And here's what I like to do. Sometimes you'll have a higher edge over here and a lower edge over here. The first first minute or so, what I do is I just kind of, the wheel's not on, I'm just pushing and moving the wheel. Push and let it rotate. And what this does, it creates a nice even dome for you to start from. It also creates a little bit of a suction cup seal around the base. Hit down any areas that are up. This gives you a huge advantage when you start to spin the wheel and put your hands on the clay, because you know it's mostly already centered. Right? Not centered, but it's in the middle, and it's a nice even igloo of clay. All right. So we're all set up. We got our water. We got our tools up here. We're ready to start wetting the clay down and shaping the clay. So one thing, move over here and get this pedal. These pedals are really sensitive, and I find that a lot of beginners have lead feet, and you'll put it all the way down, which we never really want to do, and you won't even know it, because your foot will just be resting on it because you're focused on what you're doing with your hands. So my suggestion to beginners is to put the pedal up on the table and operate it with your hands, because you can just give this a little tap and then forget about it. A lot of people start out with their foot on the wheel, and controlling speed is not something you want to be thinking about while you're trying to control the clay. So I just put it up here, operate it with your hands until you get good enough. You can put it on the floor. Let that be another lesson for a different day. Okay? When you get started, you grab your sponge. I'm try to keep my tools out of the wheel area. Okay. You're going to want to first start out by wetting the clay and wetting your hands. I got my nice warm water. I'm going to wet my hands. The clay is on there and attached pretty well, and I feel like it's pretty centered. And it's moving pretty slow. But when you first sit down, this is your first time really throwing on the wheel, just put your hands on the clay and let it spin a little bit. Okay, you can see I'm getting a pretty good amount of slip worked up on my hands. Slip is really good. It's a lot slipperier than the clay. So let's, just spend a couple of spins here, just putting your hands on the clay and feeling what that's like. There's nothing on the wheel head that's going to hurt you, so you can rest your hand on it. There is some grog in the clay that can tear up the sides of your hands. I consider buying a little bottle of lotion that you want to use after class, especially in the winter. Your hands can dry out. But we're ready to start the first process, and that is just giving it a rough centering. Okay? So I'm going to this is the fastest that we're going to go on the wheel, and it's not even full speed, and it doesn't have to be, breakneck speed here in order to get a good centering. I'm adding a little bit of water. I want you to watch every time I grab that sponge and reach across here. You can keep track. Okay? What I want you to do is to just lean in. My posture, I am right up against the wheel. I am kind of bracing myself with my knees on the wheel collar. This is a very stable thing. And then I'm going to lean my arms on there and just push and get the clay to quiet down. You can see I kind of make full contact here with my hands, almost like I'm hiding the clay ball in between my hands. Okay? And that gets it pretty much in the center. If you've done everything up to this step, that should be pretty easy. It's pretty soft clay too, so that helps. Okay, next step is to start coning the clay. Coning the clay actually aligns and gets the clay ready to be awesome. All right, and the clay right now is not ready to be awesome. It's been wedged, and your wedging helps, that cone cylinder wedging helps to spiral the clay inward. But this is really positioned in a way that the coning is going to make more sense to the clay as you start turning it into a pot. So, I already did it again. You see that? The clay keeps drying out on me. So to do this, I'm going to push down and in on this little ball of clay. Down and in. Do not try to lift the clay up. As you push down and in, the clay is just going to come up on its own. Okay? Clay came up, I pushed down and in. You don't have to take it way up here. Just a little bit, make a cone. Re-wet it, re-wet your hand. Now, I'm going to put my left hand on the side of the clay, and I'm going to put my right hand on top. It's very important that these two hands lock together like so, and you're going to push down and bring that clay back down towards the wheel head. Stability is very important. And there it is, back in the little igloo shape. Okay? You want a cone? I would say a minimum of 3 times. Cone the clay up. Back into that cone shape. Keeping track. How many times did I wet the clay? Back down. Okay? One more time. And this time I'll do it, normal speed. I'll come up, and then I'll just slide my hand over the top, back down. Clay comes up. Clay comes back down. Okay? There's a lot more help available for centering in the supplemental videos. So if the coning part isn't happening for you, go watch those. Tim C does a great job. If you watch his video, it's called Help I Can't Center. Watch that one. He goes over some problems that might happen. Okay? Now we're going to go for the secondary centering. All right, that was coning, now is centering. When I center, and notice where I'm working over mostly in this, what would you call that, 7:30, 8 o'clock position. You want the clay spinning at your hand. Okay? This is not about fingers. This is all about this area right here. I'm going to wedge my arm into my thigh, into my rib cage a little bit for stability. I'm resting it on my legs. My legs are up higher. You want your feet flat on the floor. All right? I don't want to see anyone on tiptoes. We have some little bricks that you can put on the floor for little short legs. to get up above the wheel head. That's important. You want to be hunched over the wheel with your nose right over the center of the clay. If your body is centered, the clay will center. Re-wet this. Left hand is, my arm is aligned, almost like an arrow, right to the center of the clay. Your imaginary line right down here, it's aligned right to the center. This hand is the karate chop hand, all right? And this is going to come down right on top, and it's all about this side of the hand here. So I'm going to push down on the top and in on the side, and hold. Slowly release the clay. Slowly, always slow. A lot of people want to put quick pressure on the clay, and if you do something too fast, it's going to knock the clay out of alignment. Okay? If you always approach the clay very slowly, steady, increase pressure slowly, and then slowly release pressure, the clay is going to respond as if you're the boss. If you come at the clay really fast and put your hands all over it, it's going to freak out. And the clay is not going to want to stay where you want it to go, and that means the clay is in charge. So I'm going to come up slow, powerful like yoga moves. Okay? You slowly come on, apply the pressure, hold, slowly release the pressure, and then just come away very slowly from the clay. And that shape, that hockey puck shape, is what you want. All right? You don't want to have a piece that's too flat. Bring it down too flat. All right? I don't want to see that, and I don't want to see a piece that's too tall. This is too tall. Okay? So can you see when I did that, could you see the clay come out of alignment a little bit when I pushed on it and then I slowly let it go and come back into the middle? That's what it's doing. You're pushing it off of its axis a little bit. Release, slowly come away. Okay? Get to this step, and then you're ready to go on to opening the clay and creating the floor.